Hello, 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 beautiful souls. This module, we're going to talk about what are the benefits because we want to understand what are the benefits because we're about ready to dig into the darkness. And it's like, okay, so what are the benefits? So, first and foremost, I want to reassure you that our shadow isn't a flaw or a mistake. Instead, it's a natural part of who you are. Okay. So, what I want you to do is, as you're doing this work, I want you to realize that shadow work at its heart is about developing self awareness and ultimately self acceptance and compassion. Okay. And so, the beauty in shadow work is that when you're doing this work, you are often doing both therapy and more spiritual helping. And it's helping you see the different parts of yourself. Okay. So, for people who have been especially good at avoiding their shadow, for instance, because it is too far different from your own self perception or desired impression, think about shadow work is about acknowledging the existence of the shadows and getting curious about exploring them. Okay. So, for those whose shadows are associated with trauma, this type of work helps you work through the trauma to embrace parts of yourself that have been suppressed or shamed throughout your life. By accepting your shadow self, what you do is you start to see how your thoughts and emotions influence your behavior. You become aware of this, and guess what you can do? You can take control and empower yourself to live life more deliberately and consciously. And so, guess what starts to happen? You start to show up and be your authentic self. Isn't that what we all want? Okay, so let me pull up my notes here. Okay, and let's talk about the 8 benefits of shadow work. Okay, so you can benefit from practicing shadow work in different aspects of your life. And I'm just giving you 8 examples, but there's many more. And you can do this by incorporating these things into your self-care practices. Number 1, when you start to do shadow work, you gain more confidence and more self-esteem. You can show up more confidently when you show up as your full version of yourself, shadow and all. There's no more hidden self-doubt about parts of yourself that you may dislike or even loathe. This means you can be more confident as you move forward to achieving your goals, being around people, and it also builds self-trust because you're not hiding anything and your integrity increases. Okay. So, most of the time, our shadow traits are actually valuable parts of our personality. But if they're truly weaknesses, you're better able to address them when you bring them to the light so you can understand. And guess what? You may be able to manage them better. Our shadow is most problematic when we're uneven aware of it. Okay. All right. Number 2, improve your creativity. Your shadow doesn't just hide traits that people consider undesirable. It can also hide amazing parts of yourself like creativity. Accepting your shadow means you get to embrace your creative side. Instead of suppressing your darker self, you can tap into all the unique expressions it hides. So think about that. Like, as you start to heal your shadow, you're going to see a lot about you that you have been hiding. For years, I hid not speaking to in public. And that came from a part of my shadow that was created by living in a home of domestic violence. Because guess what we couldn't do? We couldn't talk about anything. So for the longest time, I stayed very reserved and didn't speak. Now look at me. I'll talk to anybody about anything at any time. I don't care. And so when I accepted that that part of my shadow was created because it had to protect me during those times, that doesn't mean that it controls me now. I appreciate that part of me. It kept me safe back then, but now I don't have that issue to worry about. Okay. So now that I embrace it, I'm more creative. Build better relationships with others. That's number 3. Only when you fully love and accept yourself can you what? Fully love and accept others. And guess what? When we fully love and accept ourselves, then others can fully love and accept ourselves. Okay? Or accept us. So here's the thing, when we tame our projections, then you can see others for who they really are. You no longer see them as projections of the side of you that you dislike. Think about that. And what happens? You get to build stronger bonds, but when you fully accept and love yourself and you don't hide anymore, then people get to see you for who you truly are. Because so often we're hiding behind all of these facades in this shadow about who we really are. And we tailor down what we really feel about things because we are afraid that we would be disliked. But that's not the case. When you get to see people for their true, authentic self, you can appreciate them at a whole different level. And guess who else you get to appreciate? Yourself. Number 4, what I want you to do is definitely make sure you practice self-acceptance. You can get rid of the self-loathing you may unconsciously have when you repress your shadow. But you can only do this by fully accepting the side of yourself and practicing self-awareness. Accepting your shadow means accepting and feeling self-compassion for every aspect of yourself. It won't necessarily come easily and automatically, but the beginning shadow work opens the door for you to get there. Okay. Now, what else do you happens? Number 5 is you get to discover your hidden talents. For example, when I was in school, I wanted to be a cheerleader, but my mother convinced me that I wasn't going to be a good cheerleader. And I also loved playing volleyball, and I was very good at volleyball. But because of our lifestyle and what was happening, she wouldn't allow me to play it. And so I suppressed those talents and felt like they didn't happen. Even with my own child wanted to always do art and music. And I never supported those things because I didn't think he could make money from that, because that's what I was taught. So when I told him to be his authentic self and he started doing music, he became amazing at it and he still practices. So we can use our shadow work to uncover what people call the gold in our shadow bags. In other words, our inner strengths and resources that we didn't even realize that we had. That's the beauty of doing the shadow work. And some people may fear that their shadow contains too much darkness for them to overcome. But in most cases, this golden shadow takes up most of the space. It just never had the opportunity to thrive before because we were taught at a very early age to push it down. So imagine if you let it just shine, right? So shadow work can tempt this side of ourselves out of hiding and allowing us to step into everything that we really can do. Isn't that amazing? Like, imagine this dark thing that you felt that was here all this time, and you've tried to run from it. Guess what? You never run from it. It's going to always be there until you deal with it. So imagine you tap into it, and all of a sudden, the floodgates of all these talents and all this amazingness comes out. That could be your gold at the end of the rainbow, right? So shadow work can tempt the side of ourselves out of hiding and allow us to step into everything you really can do. And that's freaking amazing. Okay. Number 6, improve your overall wellness. Repressing your shadow can lead to all sorts of problems. You may not even realize these problems stem from a repressed side of yourself until you're ready to face that shadow. Shadow work can help you take control of your wellness journey by starting at the root. Instead of addressing like specific wellness issues like anxiety, unhealthy relationships, not taking care of your health, shadow work actually goes in and tackles the root cause to help eliminate the anxiety, to help eliminate the unhealthy relationships with yourself and with others. Okay. Number 7, increase your compassion toward others. Shadow work helps us reduce projections when we interact with others. You're less likely to be triggered by other people's personality traits and quirks. In turn, this can help you feel more compassionate toward others. You no longer see the dark side of yourself reflective in others. Instead, you can see them as whole people who likely have their own inner battles to face. Okay? Because you're becoming more compassionate toward yourself. Because you realize, I've had all of this in this bag because of all of these things. So when somebody is triggering me, or these people personality quirks, or all these things, then I realize that that's part of the part that they're hiding too, because they don't feel safe to expose who they truly are. Okay. My favorites is number 8. We begin to have better clarity. Shadow work gives you better clarity on how your thoughts, emotions, and feelings lead you to act the way you do. When you have this information, you can show up with more clarity and authenticity. Okay. So, as you navigate, just remember, everyone has a shadow. Even if you may have heard about it through a different name, it doesn't have to be associated with something traumatic. But the more you can integrate yourself and your shadow, the more healthy you will feel. Shadow work is crucial for your personal development to help you become the best version of yourself. So understand that not all approaches to shadow work may be right for you. Okay. But what I want you to do is, when I give you these prompts, and as you're listening to this, pay attention to what is coming up for you. Because sometimes our shadow is here to protect us and it fears being seen. And if that's the case, you need to make sure to let it know that it is safe and you're protected. Remember, on some of the shadow work or inner child work that we did, how we went in and we talked to our inner child to let our inner child know that it was safe and we were protecting it. Do the same thing to our shadow. Let it know that it is safe and you're protected, and you thank it for all of that it has done for you. Don't fear your shadow. and let it know that you're here to nurture it. Okay. All right. See you beautiful souls on our next module.